Today I fucked up by showing my ass to my whole online class. This literally just happened and I don't even know what to do. I am both ashamed, laughing and crying and horrified at my stupidity. So, I am back at university and half of my classes are online while others are on campus, and today we had one of my online classes. I am at home on Zoom with my camera off, sort of half listening as I play on my Switch and play with my birds, 2 green cheek conures, small birds, 1 Amazon parrot, large bird, on their separate play perches. Today in class was just people doing presentations about different productions of shows and discussing them. My birds, due to their size, aren't really allowed to be on the same perches, as if the small birds are bitten by the larger, it's basically their end. So I built 2 separate play perches for them to sit on instead of me having to bring around their cages. They very rarely fly away and I put them on the opposite sides of the room to avoid temptation. I was pretty sweaty from my earlier classes on campus and decided to start changing. After I had a shirt on but still no pants or underwear, the teacher decided to separate us all into rooms to talk about the presentations and present what we liked. So as everyone was moved, I went and sat down at my desk to be a part of the conversation. My whole group put on the cameras, I did too, not really thinking I would need to move, and there being only 15 minutes left, we eventually come up with our ideas, and I note that my GGCs are starting to get restless. It's near their bedtime, but still half an hour until, so I don't think too much of it and let them sit on my shoulder. Everything is going well, until something spooks the birds, and they start flying frantically around the room, passing by their own play perch and flying right to the Amazons, right in front of him. I see him get defensive, as it is his perch and birds usually are territorial, and without even thinking I shoot up out of my chair and rush over to the Amazon's perch, putting my hand between the 3 birds. My Amazon is a good boy, so he backed off and went back to his own thing, and I began to process of grabbing the GGC to take them to bed. And then, I remember. I look at my camera, which is basically turned right at my bare flat ass, and I quickly sit down on my bed, my face in my hands. I see a few reactions out of the few that had their cameras on, and I see my teacher smile awkwardly and go, right, well, we will stop there. I basically just left the call before she finished. I was absolutely petrified. Some of the people in this class are in my small degree cohort, so I message our group chat asking if anyone saw. I got a yes. They seemed to say that it didn't matter, but there are others in that class that aren't in my cohort, so I can't ask them and also apologize. Some said they hadn't been paying attention and didn't notice. My hope is that is most of the people that had their cameras off. So yeah, I don't know what to do now. In our cohort group chat I have been given the nickname Us in class, so I know I will never live it down there. But I see my teacher in person tomorrow for a different class, so, no idea what to do there. Will update if anything major happens. Too long didn't read. I was getting changed with my camera off in a Zoom class, turned it on to answer some questions mid-changing, had to stop my birds from being hurt by their own stupidity and ended up showing my bare ass cheeks to my entire online class. TBH Us in class is a pretty decent nickname. This'll be a great story to tell in the future and I'm sure it was pretty funny to everyone involved. I wouldn't be too embarrassed about it if I were you. Embarrassed smiley face. Just need to find a way to reframe it as Us in class. I don't think they will mind seeing a sexy cactus ass. You were a bit bird-brained. Don't worry, it will all pass. In time it will all seem a bit funnier. You will look back at the time you were chasing birds around the room while half-dressed, as a funny incident. At least you do have your cohort who will be understanding. As for the rest, don't let them see that you were too bothered about it and show you can laugh it off. That will make it more difficult for them to have a go at you about it. So try to think of the funny side of it, like you would if you were one of the onlookers. I'm sorry but this made me chuckle for a good 2 minutes. I am glad that I was able to give you joy. I am beginning to feel better about it all from these comments. Today I fucked up by not remembering meat goes bad. I need to tell you all a story about why I smell like rotting meat. I have a big chest freezer in my basement, and last year when turkeys were cheap for Thanksgiving I picked up an extra one and put it in there. A few weeks ago I noticed a smell coming from that area, and it turns out my cat, or kid, who knows, had accidentally bumped and unplugged the freezer. In horror we turned it back on and got everything out and into the trash except the turkey, because we live in the country and didn't want to put it out until right before the trash came so it wouldn't attract coyotes. Yes, this is a legitimate concern at my house. I know, right? And then I forgot about the damn turkey until yesterday, when the smell had finally busted through the freezer, hitting my nostrils with something akin to the scent I envision bag full of buttholes might have on a muggy summer day. I ran downstairs to grab the stupid thing. At this point even coyotes aren't eating it, and its putrid turkey juices had frozen it solid to the floor of the freezer. Since there's nothing else in there I unplugged it, assuming a few hours later I could plop that stink balloon of meat loose, but nope, still stuck. Always want to make a bad situation worse. I decided dumping pot of hot water in there would loosen up the death grip the turkey corpse had on my freezer. This was a mistake. While it did not loosen the frozen seal, it did create some sort of filth brew, like the devil himself had made a turkey ooze brine in my basement freezer. Desperate, I huddled next to the meat sludge potpourri with a hairdryer, but all that did was cook the aforementioned death broth, sending its putrid aroma off in great billowing gasps up the stairs, through the air ducts and between the walls. It was about this time the neighbor kids stopped by, and their words, when my door opened, were, "Oh, why does your house smell like that?" By now the smell had embedded itself not just in my house but in my hair, skin and, probably, my very soul. It's so deep in my nostrils that even fresh air smells of the death brine. By 8:30 p.m. the turkey had won the day. I left the freezer to thaw more, hoping to be able to wrench it loose the next day. Woke up early the next day and bought 2 Glade scented candles, 4 things of odor ban, Febreze trash bags and a bag of rock salt. Why the rock salt? Because the stank brine actually froze overnight. Froze solid in my freezer that had been turned off with the lid wide open for 24 hours. How and where was this tenacious freezing ability when the plug got knocked loose? I'm baffled and impressed. So now the turkey was stuck in its own personal stank brine iceberg, like some horrific twist on the sword in the stone. I poured salt in that bad boy to loosen the ice. Waited. Also, fun fact, if you light clean linen scented candles to mask the smell of rotting meat, your house just ends up smelling like someone stuffed a decaying animal with a lot of dryer sheets. Several hours later the smell had become unbearable. I grabbed a shovel and plunged it into the icy hell broth, using it as a pry. In the process I dented the hell out of the freezer liner, and husband was mad, but I didn't care, since by this point I'm planning on throwing away not just the freezer but the whole damn house. Shovel didn't work and the festering went on. The smell escalated. I had an idea. A horrible, awful idea. Technically only the turkey wrapping was stuck. If I were to cut away the plastic and free the rotting bird from its frozen womb, I could end this. Before I could talk myself out of it, I took a deep breath and plunged my bare hands into the package, tugging on the foul carcass. My hands burned in the cold, and for one horrifying moment I thought I'd rip it in half. Foul yellow jelly coated my hands and the smell burned my eyes. I gave one final pull, powered by sheer adrenaline, and it came loose. I stuck the green, yellow and purpled lump of flesh in a bag and ran as fast as I could for the trash outside. It was done, but I will never feel clean again. Now I begin the slow and painful path toward being whoever I will be after this. Because seeing a thing like this, smelling a thing like this, it changes a person. I'm probably going to have to get a commemorative t-shirt made, or maybe a tattoo or something to mark this struggle. Is this why those guys in prison have tattoos of teardrops on their face? Probably. I'll figure it out. Real icing on this cake of meat stank through. I'm a vegetarian. I wouldn't have eaten the damn bird anyway. I just got it to feed my meat-loving family. Tofu would never do me dirty like this. TL, Doctor, I forgot about a rotting turkey in my freezer, and now my home is the bog of eternal stench from Labyrinth. So my husband accidentally tripped the breaker in the garage, and we did not figure out that this turned our chest freezer off until about 3 weeks later. We had bacon in the chest freezer. I have never smelled an unholy smell like rotting bacon before. The aforementioned chest freezer has since been bleached within an inch of its life, but it still has a faint whiff of Satan's crotch. Do not, I repeat, Do not let bacon go off. It will haunt you for the rest of your life. Edit, bonus points for labyrinth reference. David Bowie in tights was an integral part of my formative years, winking face. The labyrinth reference was the cherry on top of this story. What's that smell is the worst game ever. Prizes suck. Did I unplug the freezer by accident? Did a possum die in the ceiling? Did my cat bring me a delightful gift and then stash it for me to discover in the worst game of hide and seek ever? One time, my dad went grocery shopping right after turkey season was over. Apparently if you spent a certain amount of money, you got a free frozen turkey. And so he did. My brother and I were setting the piles groceries in the house. My brother accidentally left the bag with the frozen turkey in it on the floor next to the door. Now, my brother and dad were real messy guys. I didn't come by there often because of it. There were piles of random bagged things all over the house, full of garbage. So this bag of frozen turkey fit right in. Week or so later, they're saying the house smells worse than usual. They assumed something died in the attic and ran with that thought. Completely dismissed anything else. Weeks turned into a month, and the house is smelling absolutely putrid. They still believe something is rotting in the attic even though there is nothing to be seen in there. Suggested that they check elsewhere around the house, including the massive garbage bag pile. My brother spots some brown liquid on the floor seeping from one of the bags, and lo and behold, the turkey, which now looks like a brown-yellow slab with copious amounts of sludge-looking goo. Should have just duct taped the freezer shut and put it out on the curb with a $25 sign on it. World have been stolen overnight. I think being arrested for theft would have been a better punishment than what a thief would have found in that freezer. Today I fucked up by accidentally stalking Bill Nye the Science Guy. Today was summer of 2012. I was going to school for aerospace engineering, and I attended an aerospace engineer/enthusiast group where they brought in notable guests in the aerospace field. Guest would give a presentation on their field and work, and there would be a great Q&A after. The last speaker for this group was Bill Nye, and the discussion lasted for 3 to 4 hours I think. I had an opportunity to ask a couple questions about his work at Boeing and how it affected his career. Fast forward a few months and I was getting a shirt dry cleaned by my house. I went inside the store and who's standing there but Bill Nye? Did I giggle with excitement, tell him how awesome it is to get to meet him? No. I did exactly the opposite in the weirdest way. I looked him in the eye and said, "Hey Bill. Like we're old pals meeting up for coffee." I figured he wouldn't remember me, so I gave him some background. We chatted a bit about that group, and then he got his stuff and headed out. Got a call from my mom asking me to pick up medicine across the street. Sure, no problem. I walk into that store, and the FU begins. I'm walking down the rows, and just as I turn into the aisle with Tylenol I see Bill Nye and an employee looking at some medicine. Somehow in my brain I thought coming at him from the main aisle was weird, so I backed out, went to the next aisle, and came back at him from the other way. Just to make it as cringe as possible I said, "Oh man, you got to stop following me," and grinned like an asshole. I can't remember if he smiled or not, but he sorta just left. To this day I'm horrified by my creeping out the science guy. TL, Doctor bumped into Bill Nye at 2 different stores, made an awkward joke, and can never live it down.